Was it a major internet outage, or did it, in fact, was it a test? That's my question. Russia actually had a major outage. Now, remember, Russia is also the same place that set up their internet quite actually about 2.5, 3 years ago now. And when they did, everybody was like, what are they doing? They essentially set their internet up so they could go off-grid from the rest of the world. Whereas if the main internet goes down, in the rest of the world, many places, they will lose their internet. Not Russia. They have created an intranet. In fact, they have already tested it, officially tested it, and they've turned it off and separated it from the rest of the world. Was this another test, or was this truly having the internet go out in almost all of Russia? It's pretty insane. Several mobile operators and internet service providers in central Russia reported service disruption on January 30th. Many websites and applications were inaccessible in the .ru and PDP domains. Russia's Ministry of Digital Development confirmed the issues with website access and assured the public that the problem had been rectified. Most of the outages were recorded in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Krasnodar region, Bakhorostan, and Kostroma. According to the website Down Detectors, user most frequently reported problems accessing Russian sites Yandex, or the search engine, and VKontakty, the social network, as well as various service apps, including banking applications. This almost sounds like some sort of tit for tat. We had our Federal Reserve go down not too long ago, or at least had such a big issue where people did not get their direct deposits for over a week. It was a really big one, and that actually trickled down to almost every major bank, U.S. Bank, Chase, Bank of America, all of the big ones, all had issues with even just paying people. Something bigger is going on behind the scenes, but again, you guys already know that. We're going to talk about tons of really great things tonight. Again, the docket is we're going to be going over Iran warns of all-out war. We're going to talk about Russia, China warn us. We have U.S. readies multiple strikes. Again, that has not gone down yet. Iran group claims to halt strikes by U.S. top secrets held ransom by hackers. We have new China military report. We have Russia deploys citizens. We have cloak of invisibility. We have echoes of civil war at the border. And we, of course, have God's Army Oasis, $138,000. And then Elon, save your brain. No joke, talking about saving a brain like a hard drive. And then JB did this, and Putin is happy. Kim is firing more missiles, and Taylor Swift conspiracy. We're going to talk about all of this tonight, so stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Surprise when it goes down, be out of town, out in the country, hope you hear me now, plan to survive, open up your eyes, command no lies and take no surprise when it goes down, be out of town. All right, we're going to get right back into the news, but remember you can always go over to the website marfooglenews.com. You can find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document in the show today, including the DoD document that we're going to be showing you later. Of course, lots of crazy stuff going on right now. The DoD document is referring to the contract. It's just started, or it starts in April 1st from 2024 to 2028. Essentially, they just gave almost $900 billion to almost every commercial airline to move military gear and military personnel. So I wonder what's going on there. We'll talk about that later. And of course, there's lots more. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Find all of our wonderful mods over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Thank you, 1B Border Hoarders. Yeah. Pogo Loco and Kimbria, thank you over on DLive, and thank you everybody that has already popped into the show. I see a lot of great people in chat already. We'll say hello to you guys in just a bit. But the major internet outage in Russia, Dex comments on, so first of all, they're set up. So if something did happen, they could separate from the rest of the world. A major disaster, anything else, they could separate. But if they get hacked,
Exactly.
that's not good.
Well, and this also could be a sign. Another one of the Russian outlets actually suggested that it could indicate about these ongoing experiments Russia's doing with creating its own national DNS system. So as we know, they had separated off their internet, and part of that is managing the DNS information. So they could have been doing something there too, and it went awry, or somebody could have infiltrated it. We don't know.
What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And from Russia, we're going to go over to Tehran. Warns our president that if the U.S. strikes Iranian soil in retaliation for the perishing of 3 soldiers, the Islamist regime will hit back at American targets across the Middle East, sparking an all-out war between the foes. They're pretty clear on this. They're not really mincing words. And as we are being told, this is going to happen. Or at least not this, but they're saying they are going to strike certain targets in Iran, right? But who knows what they'll actually do? JB and the administration now may say, oh, well, we're actually going to do some sanctions. But it sounds like most people are on the tip where they are going to do some sort of strategic strikes and hit something. We thought this was going to happen last night because that's essentially what they were saying they were going to do or say or announce. But we'll see what ends up happening. As far as Iran, they're being really clear. They're saying that they're telling the United States that if you strike anywhere in Iranian soil, we're going to strike back all over the place. On top of this, they actually just recently released information and put out all of their targets of places they were going to hit in Israel. All sorts of very strategic locations. An all-out conflict between Iran and Israel is also not good for the United States. I'm in the United States, and I know that there's a lot of you that are outside the country, Australia, Europe, Mexico. We've got a couple Brazilians here. We've got New Zealanders. But as far as this is going to affect all of our allies, if we go to war, you're essentially going to war as well. Dex, go ahead.
This thing makes an interesting conundrum too. If they come out and tell the U.S. what they can't do, and then the U.S. doesn't do it, does that make it look like the U.S. is kowtowing to them? If they say you better not hit our land, and then we don't, then that the fact that we've delayed and we haven't even done anything yet, seems to be a little lacking in my opinion. It's like we don't know what to do. We have to take our time. Now, there's nothing wrong with being thoughtful and making sure you're doing the right thing and doing it right so you can be most effective. But now this gap of time has allowed them to step in and say, no, if you hit us, and knowing that we probably won't, it's then makes it look like, well, they told us not to, so we're not going to do it. And is that what's going to happen?
And the timing on the hearing about how a lot of congressional officials are saying that, China is the one behind a lot of this, that they are actually supporting all of our adversaries and not only sending money, but encouraging them to do different things to the U.S. That would make sense for what I've thought for years, which is China is truly the puppeteer of all of these other countries. Like they're all kowtowing to China. As far as that hearing yesterday that happened, they also made some pretty clear statements, said that, China is building up the largest military buildup in peacetime since World War II. There's a lot of things that are actually happening that are almost an exact repeat of history. In fact, we're going to talk about one today as far as with our border and everything that's going on there. this is looking a whole lot like civil conflict. But is that the goal? Is this something that is on purpose? We'll talk about that later. It's pretty incredible when you look at it compared to, what was it, World War One? Yeah, yeah, World War One. I'll talk about that later. It's if you just so many crazy events that are happening that have happened either in World War One or World War Two, and you just change the names and the people, and it's like, one of those based on true story movies or something on Lifetime. That's how it is right now. All right, and then from Tehran to China, Russia and China rush to defend their ally Iran, urging JB to de-escalate strikes despite drone attack taking the lives of 3 U.S. soldiers, warning it will spark a cycle of retaliation, a tit for tat that won't stop. Right? Dex, do you want to go over this one? They're essentially saying the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's a no-brainer. They came out first. They said it first. They came in and they set this up. And for starters, they're trying to grab position in the global stage. But again, it puts us in this position where it's like, hey, you guys have to just take it. You've been taking it 150 times. Take it one more time. This punch was the really big sucker punch. You can't fight back. You got to back down. While we sit here and can keep funding the guys that are punching you left and right. So the fact that they both come out, China and Russia, and Iran comes out and says, don't hit us. And if you do, it's going to be bad. Then the question now comes up, what are we going to actually do? And we haven't done it yet. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. So stick tight. But we've sort of, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's not lining up right. It's not feeling right. And never does when you have something like this, when you're in the throes of potential conflict and war like we are. And this time things are really at a major precipice. And I don't know if we can get out of this and save face, so to speak, or maintain any semblance of power that we've had or stance in the world as a strong nation. I don't know. I'm kind of worried about this. Again, it looks like to me, again, like another opportunity to crush America down.
And now that everything is happening that this community has talked about for years, it's just, we're inching closer to the big, fireworks, right? Now that we're here, it does not look like there is a way backwards. It's kind of the point of no return for the public's mind to be like set. This is world war. Now that we're here, it's not like this is the vindication any of myself or any of my peers want. None of us wanted war to happen. We're not wishing for it, but we also didn't want to be caught off guard by it. For years, we've seen the signs of all of these other countries building up. You've all seen it. And now that it's here, people are going to start acting really, really squirrely. Not to mention, there's so many people that are absolutely unprepared if something does go down. Just want to remind people, the first thing that happens in a world war, and if you're in the U.S., you're in Europe, if you're in any of our allies' countries, the first thing they do is turn off communications and they turn off the lights. They turn off power. They turn off communications. They hack the systems. Right now, with this previous story, Russia's internet goes down. Something's going on behind the scenes. They're not going to tell you outright. They want you to keep, going to your 9 to 5. They want you to keep, doing your daily life, and you should be. But at the same time, most of us should be looking at this and saying, hey, probably be responsible to prepare. That's our main point. This is news from a prepper standpoint. And at this point, we are close to the actual event that we have talked about for now 5 years. And as it gets closer, more and more of your friends and family are going to start going, even if it's going to click, they're not going to admit it to you. They're not going to come out and say, oh my gosh, you were right. They're going to say, maybe something will happen, or maybe this. It's up to all of us just to get ourselves ready for all of this. Speaking of which, make sure to go check out, if you want to protect yourself, I don't know, I don't think they've ever run out, but they might actually. Go check out EMP Shield. Go to marfuglenews.com/EMP. I know that essentially all of these different companies are now in this other surge. When there's things like this goes, there's huge surges. So if you do want to get an EMP Shield, if you've been waiting, I definitely recommend going over and checking them out. Go to marfuglenews.com/EMP. This can be wired into your cars, trucks, or anything else that runs, including your homes and your generators, and it will actually ground the signal of an EMP or a CME from the sun, a Carrington level event, before it's able to fry your device. We recommend this because we believe this will save lives in the event of either an EMP or a natural solar event, which we will have at some point. It's just a matter of if the government gets around to completely updating our grid. They are trying to do it, but it's like one county out of all of the United States is hardened. And it's probably going to take, I don't know how many years, if not decades, to fix, but you definitely want to get yourself protected because they're not going to do anything for you. Go over to marfuglenews.com/EMP. You can also get protection for your energy. If you already have a Flex 1500 solar generator, you can get one for that, specifically made for it by EMP Shield. It's the same company that's outfitting DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. So they are actually in the Department of Homeland Security EMP Resilience Report. They were one of the first companies that was contracted. So make sure to go check them out. Use the code MARF to save money. And again, I would make sure to go check it out. If they don't have the regular, they also have the EMP Shield Micro, all the same protection, smaller. It's a couple dollars more, but it's much easier to fit into an engine block or to somewhere else, or smaller vehicles. All right. And then the Pentagon, U.S. readies retaliatory strikes for drone attack by Iran-backed militants. They always point out, and they are pointing out, that this is Iran-backed. It wasn't directly Iran, or at least that's what a lot of people are saying out loud. So is this being said, and they're trying to reiterate this, so when they say, oh, well, we're going to do sanctions or we're going to strike the Houthis and not Iran, then it all comes down again? I don't know. It seems like we're in the time frame. I think in the next few months, a lot is going to change, and it's going to happen incrementally because that's the pattern of everything that's ever happened, including both of the previous world wars. Little events ended up adding up into big events, which we'll talk about here in a minute too. But Dex, as far as they haven't struck yet, like you said earlier, it's crazy that we haven't done something back yet. 3 American soldiers perished. Usually that's like, it's on like Donkey Kong, but somehow it's not.
Yeah, certainly. And here's the thing: they're coming out and they're saying, "Hey, they will be carried out. We're going to carry out these strikes, but we're going to do it over the course of several days, and we're going to strike multiple targets." I don't know why we have to announce every little thing and give everybody a heads up before we do it. I long for the days when we got this big announcement and nobody knew what was going on, and then they told us, "Hey, we just obliterated an enemy overseas because they did something bad to us, and now we're going to tell you about it." Now it's like, "Hey, tell the world in advance. Hey, we're coming in. Make sure you hide all your stuff. We may get you in the next few days." It just seems so soft, and I guess that's part of the plan or part of the mission that they have here, because it doesn't feel like the America we used to be.
We're by the way, we're gonna go get those weapons of mass destruction over on 6th Avenue, 3rd floor, in about 45 days. Just to let you know, on 6th Avenue, 3rd floor, in 45 days, okay? So we hope when we go in 45 days to 6th Avenue on the 3rd floor, D201, that there will be weapons of mass destruction. 45 days later, there were no weapons of mass destruction. And the Department of Defense cast doubt on Iran-backed malicious claim to halt strikes on U.S. troops. Actions speak louder than words. Now, there's warmongers, and there's those that say, hey, don't do anything right now. Everybody is yelling at the top of their lungs, one thing or the other. But now Department of Defense is saying they don't exactly believe what they're saying. It says an Iran-backed militia group in Iraq says it is suspending attacks on U.S. troops after a drone attack took the lives of 3 soldiers early Sunday, but the Department of Defense is casting doubt on those claims. The Iraq-based Kataib Hezbollah said Tuesday it was suspending military and security operations against the occupying force to avoid any embarrassment for the Iraqi government. The group is one of multiple Iranian proxies in the region that are believed responsible for carrying out attacks on U.S. targets in Iraq, Syria, and mostly recently, Jordan over the past several months. The group says the attacks are in retaliation for U.S. support in Israel for its ongoing offensive against the militants in the Strip and mounting death toll of Palestinian civilians. Since the 17th of October, there have been at least 165 attacks. Do you notice how this is still going up? We stopped keeping track after 100, and then now it's 150 plus. Now they're saying 165 attacks. Like Dex was mentioning earlier, it's like there's been 100. We are now in the hundreds. If this goes just a little bit more, we're going to be in the plural hundreds of attacks on U.S. soldiers, and we really have not. Think about what we, this isn't shock and awe. This is like sit tight and assess. What's that movie? Don't Look Up. Sit tight and assess. I don't know if that's the right answer, but what is the right answer? We don't know what kind of backdoor deals are being done. We don't know who is corrupt. We don't know who is being paid. We don't know who's on what side, where this agenda is heading, if it's headed towards the entire world being under one umbrella. We don't know all of this. What we do know as preppers, though, is that we need to take care of our own. Like, that's the main point. When we talk about these stories that are going on, it's not to make you afraid. It's to make you realize that this world and the regardless if it comes from MSM, legacy media, or alternative media, there are certain things that you can do responsibly that you should be doing right now. There have been events since 2019 that obviously we understand that the entire world can come together, not in a great way, but in a bad way. And those kind of events will happen again. If it happened once and it happened successfully, it's going to happen again. And if you think if you realize that the now most likely scenario is somebody made that thing that happened, what do you think they're going to try next? I mean, like, this is every world conflict that we've ever had ended up having some sort of benefit afterwards. And the people at the very top that are not going to be on the front lines, they know this. There is going to be absolute benefits for the very people at the top. For the same politicians that are also on the board or committees over at Boeing and Raytheon and Northrop and Grumman, all of these people that are going to leave office and go sit in a cushy seat in the corner office, all of those people know this too. And they all have bunkers in their house if something happens to their area. They all have a cushy house in an area, and they get a heads up of when things are going to happen and where, so they can be somewhere else. We will not. And that's the point to, as this gets closer, we all need to start really getting our stuff together. Don't go crazy over the top. And I've said that for 5 years. Just the tortoise wins the race, right? If you just do a little bit at a time, you'll do so much better than almost everyone out there. I wonder if it is in the 95+% of people that are in this category of just completely unprepared, because that's what it feels like, especially when I talk to my friends and family. They say they don't believe it. It sounds like they are scared because if the sleeping giant wakes up, they are screwed. What if this was some sort of Fantastic Freddy to start something? And they're like, hey, we didn't do it, but we can't say that. Who knows? Dex, the notorious ransomware gang, claims it pulled classified and top secret documents from the U.S. intelligence agencies. What is going on here?
Okay, so there's this company called Technica, and they have claimed, or I should say, Technica is the company that works with the federal government, and this black cat, if you want to call them that, or also known as ALF, ALPHV, they have claimed that they have infiltrated Technica, and in the process of doing so, because Technica supports a lot of the federal government components and stuff have gotten access to top secret documents, classified documents that were on part of those systems, and they pertain to the FBI. They pertain to other U.S. intelligence agencies. They have released some of the information to prove that they've been in the system, such as social security numbers, employee information out of the Technica company that works with the federal government on some of this. And so they proved that they, I guess, have had access to the systems. And they're saying that they're going to release the information if they don't get paid. And I guess they're looking for, I don't know what exactly how much they're looking for. Typically, these
Millions?
ransomware guys, that's what they do. They're looking for money. So um, it will be interesting to see if they, if we pay them off and they actually hold true. If they don't, I think no matter what, this information's out there and it's eventually going to come to light. And I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is yet. Could be nothing. Could be benign. Could just, there's a lot of stuff marked top secret that at the end of the day, when you read it, it's really not a big deal. But there certainly is a lot of stuff that is very sensitive, and that has a great potential. And we may or may not get a glimpse of that from this. And I don't know if that's a good thing.
Bagels are actually donuts. Shh. Sorry. And thank you, Paul Barbacano says, no turning back now. The whole world is preparing for war. Very depressing. Well, and then some people that gives them anxiety. But at this point, what are we supposed to say? That it's all rainbows and ponies? The thing is, for the last 5 years, when there were peaks where there wasn't, a lot of stuff going on, people really didn't see that the framework was being built for this for years. That's why we saw it. That's why, 3 years ago, people are going to say, oh, you're just trying to scare people. Now we hear that so little, it's insane, because now people are realizing, oh, all the framework's there, and they're looking, they're going, whoa, when did they do this? And you go, they did this 3 years ago? They did this 5 years ago? Yeah, everything has to be set up for years for a conflict like this to go off. If you know your history, and a lot of people, if there's history buffs here, you guys know that it took decades before World War II, and it was all run off of World War I. And World War I took it was a decade plus in the making for the direct stuff to happen. And you could say it was in the making for a very long time. And some countries had to jump in last second because they had to defend their border, and there was all sorts of things that happened. Now we're witnessing this again in our lifetime. And it's kind of like a car crash. It's like you don't want to look, but you also don't want to miss it, right? You're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? This is going to be the craziest things of our lifetime. It's going to be crazier than CV. It's going to be crazier than what we just went through. And I think that once it really sets in, that's why people should get prepped before everybody goes nuts. I mean, you should have learned this from CV when all the shelves were cleared of everything, Tylenol and all the stuff that people need, necessities. That should have been the number one lesson for everyone across the country. But it wasn't. People just go back to, I'm not worried about it. As long as the news tells them to be okay, they're okay. If the news tells them to be scared, be scared. You should be on a flat line. You shouldn't be super excited when this stuff happens, and you shouldn't be super calm when nothing is going on, because you should always be a steady line and always be moving forward to having your family prepared. As far as what's going on here, what if something releases that, sets the world on fire? That's the crazy part here when you get into that level. Aaron 4G, thank you. Thank you for your support. KT Cleans a lot, thank you. Neil Nelson, I think I missed you on the last one last night. And then Genius by Birth, my mom admitted to hospital today. I'm so sorry, Genius by Birth. She needs surgery for a bowel obstruction. Maybe tomorrow if they can borrow from another hospital, because they don't have the IV medication due to a nationwide shortage. Take care of your health. Did you hear that? So besides prayers for you, Genius by Birth, and by the way, Genius by Birth normally doesn't do supers. They usually gift out badges to other people in the chat. So always giving something to somebody else as their support. So thank you, Genius. But besides that, an IV medication shortage, I have not heard of that yet. I know that medication in general, there's been a lot of delays and things like that. Um, one of my children is epileptic now, and their medication was on a shortage, and it was very, very close. We barely got it before it was like absolutely necessary. And then Paul Barbacano, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Richard Koschmeider, thank you for your support as well. And then let's do a quick roll call while we're on the subject. Thank you, everybody that has made it so far. David Holston, thank you. Jay Pass, thank you for being here. We've got prayers. Tiges NZ. We've got Ohio in the house. I know that. We've got Smokey Mo. We've got Bab Bab. Kristen Ober, what is happening? Jeremy Smith. Hope realize shortages are coming. Yeah. Well, just wait until there's a real disaster. Look at what happened during Hurricane Katrina. Thanks for all you do. Preserve Verancia. Did I say that right? Thank you so much over on X. Thank you. RRBS29. Thank you. Carrie Ray. Daniel Sen from Saskatchewan. We have Arkansas. We have Texas. We have Iowa. Lisa Douglas, Jimmo, Texas. Seeking Truth from West Texas. We have Priscilla R. from Illinois. We have Tennessee in the house. We have Cat in a Hat from Washington. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Spanish flu before World War III. Oh, you're going to trip when you see this later. Direct correlation with World War I. Maryland in the house. What is happening? Oregon, Chattanooga. Hey, where's Chattanooga? Dex, is that Florida? Is Chattanooga Florida? Or is that Louisiana?
Tennessee, just north of Atlanta.
No, I was totally off. Tennessee in the building. Hey, Tennessee Tactical. You know where Chattanooga is. Hi from Iowa and BFE. Hey, Jake Malone. Thank you. Montana, Captain Pollywog Vanderbeef. Honey Draskell and Bill Fortenberry from Oklahoma. My uncle from Oklahoma says Oklahoma. He says artichokes and cement. We used to make fun of him all the time. And that's how to say artichoke in Oklahoma. Artichoke. All right. Thank you, Liz Bauer and everybody else for making it tonight. Oh, dang it. Who was that on X? I always like saying hi. Thank you for everybody that does watch over on X. If you do pop into the chat, thank you. All right, Kathy MC, Hart Salvia, and everyone else. Thank you. And then China, the Defense Department's China military power report. The threat is worse than advertised. Dex, how is it worse than advertised? I thought it was already pretty much, the billboards say it's pretty bad already.
Well, they say the most worrying part of the report documents that over the last 12 months, China has built 100 new nuclear weapons, making it the fastest growing nuclear power on the planet. It says Beijing is on track to numerically match the U.S. nuclear arsenal by 2032. The report also notes that China is deploying its growing military powers in increasing provocative ways. Over the last 2 years, it conducted over 280 coercive and risky air intercepts against the United States and its allies. And then finally, the report documents the growing use of Chinese naval assets to intimidate and coerce the fishing fleets operating in international waters, not only in the Western Pacific, but as far afield as Latin America. All this is done against the backdrop of unprecedented numbers of air maritime exercises in the waters and the skies around Taiwan. So the fact that they're doing all this, never mind the fact they got the largest Navy, never mind the fact that they've been completely growing their Air Force at dramatic levels. Those are all facts that are in here. And those are all normal points that you sort of expect because we've been talking about that for the past few years. They have been modernizing 5th gen on their jets. Everything is getting at a much greater and greater level. And these are some of the things they picked out specifically that should be the most worrying from that report. And a few things maybe that the report doesn't get right as far as how much money they've spent. Apparently, their official defense budget of only $230 billion, but it's just a fraction of the $886 billion that we spend. But I think we actually know that there's more being spent in China than that because that's only what they're showing. There's a lot of their numbers that don't necessarily get disclosed properly.
And there's no way they're disclosing it. You know why? Because the U.S. had no idea that they were going to be the largest Navy until they were the largest Navy. This is exactly what we told you here years ago, and this was information from Fugel Fam Military and insiders that said that they were building nukes faster than they ever saw. And we remember they first, when this all came out, when they had 300 nukes, they said, oh, well, they'll have 500 or 1,000 by 2030. They're saying that they will numerically match the U.S. by 2032. Do you realize how many that is making? To match the U.S. is in the thousands, first of all. But second, that is overkill. They don't need that much. Nobody needs that much. They don't. How many does it take to destroy the entire world? How many does it to be mutually assured destruction? I don't think it. I think their current arsenal would assure that with the United States. But now they are saying that they will numerically match us by 2032. Do you realize how fast they are building them? This is exactly the information we got here years ago. On top of that, the Air Force, now it is official. They have come out. All of these things, if you watch the show and know our community, you would have gotten years ago. And that's all because of the Fugel fam. That's all because of you. So this is time and time again. We have gotten information from our audience and from you guys that is absolutely spot on. So I just want to thank you. And we're literally on the right track. And now that everything is coming closer, everybody's going to start seeing that. And we're going to be looking less and less crazy and less of fearmongers. And people are going to go, gosh, I really should have been prepping. It's all happening. And, my peers, I know they think the same way. It's like now finally there's vindication, but it's not a good kind of vindication. It's not like it's not like, it's a bad vindication. It's like, we don't want to be right, but this is unfortunately what is happening right now. They are building so fast. The Air Force, the nukes, to numerically match us by 2032 in 8 years. That is incredible. That's insanity. Keep that in mind. Think about how fast those are building. And they said that they would have 500 by the year 2030 at first. That number's out the window. And then think about all of the stuff they're making under the sea. Oh, and back to the fact that they do not declare everything. They built all those Navy boats undercover. They did not declare that money until way later. They do it in year chunks. It's why they don't put out their numbers, or sometimes they'll wait and then they try to fix their numbers and put them out like that. That's why I don't believe a lot of the information coming out of China. China itself, their propaganda put out that they're going broke. That makes me question it entirely. The CCP has to approve of everything that goes out through the Shenzhen, through the People's Daily, through the South China Morning Post. All of those have to be approved by the CCP before they go out. And they're telling us through those outlets that, oh, China's failing. It's the economy's about to break. I don't think that that's correct. With all of these huge, massive companies that run the world, just over the last couple of years, every richest person in the world saying invest in China. Why? Is China going to be the new, daddy of the world? They're going to be the new number one, and all of these rich and elites have some sort of deal to sit at the table with them? That's what it seems like. And eventually, I think people will see that. Russia deploys 100,000 citizens in occupied Melitopol, aiming to extinguish Ukrainian resistance. So just so you know, they're not soldiers. They're citizens. They're deploying citizens to live there so they make their claim. They are now putting 100,000 citizens in Melitopol. Russian occupation authorities brought about 100,000 Russian citizens to temporarily occupy Melitopol to suppress UKR resistance. 150,000 people lived in Melitopol before the full-scale Russia invasion. Within 6 months after the occupation, more than half of Melitopol's residents left the city for the government-controlled territory and abroad, leaving 60 to 70,000 people in the city. It says since then, the city has been flooded with freeloaders and migrant workers from Russia. According to a local resident, the population has become larger than it was before the occupation, exceeding 150,000. Mostly, those are people who have arrived. So I guess if somebody left their house, that a Russian can come in and go, hey, that's my house. That's mine right there. I call dibs on the blue one. Is that how it really is? I don't know, but that is what they're saying. Dex, so they're moving their own citizens in there, and I guess it's kind of like the Filipinos, keeping people on that boat to claim, ownership of the land or to keep their claim. Is that what they're trying to do?
Well, certainly, if you're going to occupy land, you want to make sure that you've got, your people are there. Now, presumably, they took this land and they said they took it because the people that were there were supportive of their country. Now, lots of people left during the conflict, but lots of people have come back. And the claim now is that those that are coming back from Russia, or they're coming in and being placed there by Russia. So that in and of itself just goes to the point that they're trying to maintain and prepare and hold a stronger position as they move into the negotiation period, the so-called peace talks that may or may not come about finding resolution. But Russia definitely doesn't want to lose ground. They want to maintain the ground they took.
I think it's crazy that a lot of people, it's not like, you see all these social media platforms putting out video and saying, they'll show videos of the strip before and after it was destroyed, and they put beautiful music and they say, this is before and this is after. Nobody does anything on Ukraine anymore. This city is now inhabited by Russia, and you don't see the videos of like the before and after of now it's, straight up Russian territory at this point. It's kind of crazy how little people care about Ukraine now. And that's because the more and more that's come out, people feel like they've been slighted. They feel like somebody played a card trick on them. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know. Before we move on, this is one of our other recommendations. We actually don't do this one all the time. Nutrient survival is something that Alaska Prepper turned me on to, and it is a really, really, really quality freeze-dried food. You have a 15% off discount with our code. This is actually essentially made to keep in most of all the nutrients, as freeze-drying does, but they actually pack it with 6 times more nutrients than the average freeze-dried food. This is a very high-quality freeze-dried food, and again, you'll see they have all sorts of great packages. They are put together extremely well. And it's not just a food to survive, it's a food to thrive. There are different qualities and different prices for different freeze-dried foods. We have different recommendations for most affordable, most nutritional, most space efficient. All of these, come into mind when you're trying to pack food. Especially like, we've had people that say, hey, we need something that is going to pack into a very small space. We're in an apartment and we need 6 months of food. That's a lot of food, even if it's freeze-dried. So there are different options. This one, again, is the highest quality that we work with. Go to marfooglenews.com/NS. Again, 6 times more nutrients than other survival food. It was handcrafted in small batches in Reno, Tahoe, and it is special ops grade survival food. Go check it out, marfooglenews.com/NS. You help support us. We are completely on our own. We have no multi-channel network. We don't have a team. We have the Marfoogle family. We have our mods, and we have myself and Dex. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. marfooglenews.com/NS, and make sure to use the code MARF because you don't want to get it and not save. And then that is Nutrient Survival. Alaska, Rudy from Alaska Prepper is who recommended that to me. And then Kremlin, Russian troops could disappear as Kremlin touts invisibility cloak. So this is pretty trippy. And I've seen this. And what's funny is I saw this in a Call of Duty game. I didn't realize that this is something that, was, I guess, real. It is not a true invisibility cloak, but it's more of an invisibility cloak for night vision type thing. It says Russia has developed and deployed new camouflage technology for its troops that many have nicknamed Invisibility Cloak. This cloak, Nevidka, is part of Russian and previously Soviet doctrine of maskavura, translated literally as disguise, but conceptually, the etymology is masquerade. It says, which is foundational principle of Russian military doctrine. A strategic military intelligence analyst and the author of Putin's playbook told Fox News. It says, quote, the idea is to fool the adversary about everything you do, mislead him about the presence, position, and size of troops, timing, and place of attack, prevent him from distinguishing types of military hardware. Now, I'm going to show you a picture of this here in 2 seconds. Dex, actually, I don't know if the tweet loaded. Can we get a, is it, I don't
There's
think
one further down in the article.
Okay, there we go. So I want to point out, so Russia has been known for this for a long time. And I've talked about this clip before, but there's an actual clip of Adolf himself and a recording that talks about him talking about Russia in World War II. And it's a clip that's translated, and he's saying, he goes, you know, hey, when they said that Russia has 35,000 tanks, he says, I told him, no, you're crazy. You're seeing ghosts. You're seeing doubles. You're on something. You know, you're loopy. And then Adolf says, he goes, and then I saw them. I saw them with my own eyes, and I couldn't believe it. Out of nowhere, they had 35,000 tanks. And this is why I've talked about when they invaded Ukraine and they said, oh, they only have this many. It is their thing. It is their absolute thing to pop up last second and to be completely catch you by surprise. That's why I thought it was weird when in the very beginning, instead of sending in their regular army, they immediately started conscripting anybody and everybody off the street, sent them in with 100-year-old guns, and they're making the world think that they're just this horrible military. Before Ukraine versus Russia, nobody thought that Russia was a weak opponent. Nobody underestimated our opponent because that's stupid. The art of war teaches you that. Never underestimate your opponent. But people have. They are focusing on guerrilla tactics, on surprise tactics, and if you think about that in the way that they are looking at cyber attacks and things like that, that's why we have to be worried about what Russia could do, especially if they're partnered up with China, Iran, Cuba, and everybody else. Now Russia actually has a base in Cuba, along with China also has a base there, and they're monitoring the United States. But check this out. This is a cloak, and mind you, most of our soldiers now, a ton of them, have just been equipped with night vision goggles because they've got the newest tech. Well, it's pretty useless if they put something like this on and just disappear. There's you can see him putting it on and then boom, gone. Now you might see his foot, but you might think that's a log or something else. If you just see a tiny little object, it could be a cold object or a hot object or something like that. But these are absolutely nuts. If you are wearing night vision goggles, you go invisible. So, especially if you're able to cover your entire body, you're gone. So that I wonder if we have something just like it. I know we covered they have these new shields that they can put in front of our tanks that reflect they somehow reflect they do an optical illusion and they reflect the view on either side. We've all seen that and videos of that, but this is pretty trippy. And then we have Texas, troubling echoes of an American civil war in small Texas border town as thousands of migrants pour in while extraordinary standoff develops between the government's border patrol and local forces who do not trust JB's White House to keep out the masses. Now, this is important because of what it's saying, and we've got a huge point to make here. This is a big deal. And I have a couple comparisons. I'm a history buff, and I immediately found, ways that this was tied back into even World War I. But we'll talk about that here in a minute. Dex, do you want to go over, why this is really starting to look weird?
Well, the fact that the media is starting to throw out the civil conflict narrative over and over again, we're seeing that more in the mainstream. That was something we talked about before they started talking about it, because we said, hey, this could be one of those areas where you start to position or see a position of state versus federal government, which was always, when you go back to the original Civil War here in America, that's what it was. It was the states going against the Union. So what we've got here is, on one hand, you could say not even it's not even political, it's more state rights issue. But on the other hand, a lot of people are drumming this up to be more of a confrontation around division of people that support one side versus the other. And that is the scary part, because that can cause a lot of potential reactions to events that may happen in a place like this, because this is a very small place. And so when you think about it, you're literally talking about a small town. You're literally talking about a small park across a great long border. So, but what we're focused in on is this one thing. And the bigger picture, if you look at it from Texas' point of view, is, hey, they're not trying to fight the battle of, can we put the border across all of our state? They want that, but they didn't just run out and do that. What they're doing is they're doing it in one spot, and they're using this as the test to determine if they can win the legal right to do it. And then if they can, then they can go do what they want. Then they can go and control their own border, so to speak, as a state. They would then have that right. To them, that's why they're arguing this. At least that's what they're saying. To a lot of other people, when you look at this, there's a lot of other layers that go into here, as far as who's coming across, who's supporting it, which sides of the political spectrum. They're obviously are very polarizing, and it is, some might even think it's potentially a powder keg there.
We want to point out there's some discrepancies in what's going on there, in how well they have that fortified, but in other areas it's not. And it's almost like it's making it look as if this is, it's attracting all of your attention. This group, God's army that's going down there, if they go down there, they're going to drive down the street. They're going to see otherwise. There's some weird things going on. We'll most likely talk about that. We're gathering information for something else tomorrow. But we'll talk about that later. As far as when they go down there, what are they going to see? Now, there's a truckers convoy heading down there. Here's the scenario that could really turn this and go south, no pun intended. But say a group of truckers, group of 6-7 truckers standing there, somebody tries to go through. What if they try to put their hands on them and push them back? What if they end up getting in a scuffle or getting in a fight, and somebody takes the life of another person or injures another person or something like that? Then you end up having protests in all the major cities saying this shouldn't have happened, this blah, blah, blah. And it causes even more division. And I'm not saying that it would be the truckers' fault or anybody's fault, but you could have something like that go reverse too, where people in Mexico or people end up protesting and say, hey, our people were just trying to cross and they got this or that. Or, this trucker was just trying to protect the border and they got, they perished. This is the kind of thing that turns this into a serious powder keg. And is it being done? Some folks are saying, just turn off your TV because some of this is just drummed up on purpose. If it was on purpose, that's even scarier than if it's not. That means that there is, puppet strings behind the scenes trying to get us to a point of something like this. Now, there's been many comments, and the one that bothers me the most is the comment that now they still cannot prove he did not say it. This is what I love. If you fact check this, they will say it's inconclusive. They don't say it's false, which I've never seen them do. If they've even, our president has said a word that everybody heard him. He'll say, I am holding a fork. And they'll say, no, he was saying clock. You just heard he mispronunciated or something. And they'll say, false. He said, fork or something. They'll say, oh, he said this. And you're like, no, I swear I heard him say spoon. No, he was thinking. And in the context, it actually meant fork. And, I've literally seen them do that. With the comment Mr. Gates allegedly said was, I understand that our polarization might just end it all. He says there will be a hung day of where we drop ballots in the box. Very sensitive subject. That will be a hung. And then, of course, he says, and we will have a civil conflict. He says civil war. It didn't say we may have. It didn't say we might have. It says there will be a this and there will be a that. It's a very creepy comment, and it stuck with me. And I'm the first one who wanted to go, oh, okay, that's false, right? And I was the first one to say, where is this at? It was in an interview, and they still can't prove that it wasn't said. They just say there's not enough evidence to say that he did. And I believe that's because they deleted it almost immediately because everybody caught on. But they say inconclusive. I'm like, how can they say that? Couldn't they just say it's completely false? And why that creeps me out is because of how much power, how invested he is, and how many people. He's not just a normal rich guy or normal celebrity. He is in control of many things. He is at the very top with these people. And I think that he's not the top of the world, but he's definitely up in those tiers. And that's because of he's got power in that realm. I would say he's got as much power as somebody like Putin, but here in America and in other places in the world. And that's a crazy thing to say. Putin, by Elon's words, is the richest man on earth. So think about that. Now, I also see the 138,000 that they've raised. Watch, they're going to say that they can't raise it anymore, or they're going to say that this is, this or that, and they're going to cut off the funds for that or something. We've seen it happen before, probably going to see it again. What would be really crazy is if this gets really nuts and they start turning off bank accounts like other countries have done. Dex, as far as this goes, this could end up. Oh, and by the way, World War I. Dex, I'll let you respond, and then I want to pull up something real quick.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this has got, you've got to have a lot of trust in the political leader, that would be Abbott in Texas, if you think that this is organic. You got to really be behind him. If you're not, then you really got to question, is this a big show? And is it a show for purposes that continue to do what all of these shows have done to us over the years, which is create greater levels of division, which lead us down a path of civil conflict? And I think that's what I'm concerned with. And I don't have an opinion yet which way I'm leaning on this one personally. But I'm certainly very skeptical, because it has very much the makings of being manufactured just as much as it has the makings of potentially being organic.
Now, with World War I, everybody was divided on a certain issue, and obviously you had one side that was believed in owning people, and then the other side,
Civil War.
Oh, sorry, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm looking up the wrong thing. That's what. So with the Civil War, I keep saying, did I say World War I this whole time?
Yes.
Civil War. So in the last Civil War, you had the people that believed in owning people, and I don't know why this is up still. I lost the page I loaded before the show. The cause of the Civil War, when you had the people that believed in owning people, and then you had the other. You had Confederates, and you had everyone else, as far as Abraham Lincoln was actually about to be in position there, right? Right before the day where everybody dropped about in a box, he was put in. All of this stuff was going down, and it was over this major issue. As far as, can you find that page we found? Because I don't want to misquote it, because it is important, and it's.
Yeah, I don't have the page, but it's the Harper's Ferry raid.
Yeah,
and that happened in 1859. And
okay, I was thinking 1880. I'm totally off.
Yeah. And that was an event that I think it was John Brown, who was an abolitionist. He ended up dying in that and became basically a martyr for the North, which enraged the South at the same time. But these were the small little events. In other words, these were the things that led up to, because the big day was when, a couple years later, when South Carolina actually seceded. They were the first ones. And that's when it all really kicked off. That was the big thing. But what were the little things that happened before? And I think that's what you're getting at, Adam.
Yeah, and there was discrepancies. There was different. Everybody was pinned up against each other. There was advertising. Both sides were very up and about. Gosh, I wish I had all of my notes, and I closed my notes on accident because I had it all put together. As far as the different things that are going on, it's almost like the same time period even. And we're also going into this election where you have everybody split down the middle on issues. It's either you support it or you don't. And we are going in and we have T-Man up for election, right? And it's such a weird thing because Abraham Lincoln, and we look back in history, back then, it was like people either hated him or loved him. And I'm not trying to compare the two men there, but it is pretty nuts that we're almost in the same situation right here, only different issues. Dex, go ahead.
You're spot on, Adam. And just to give the timetable, it was, the raid happened in 59, and then in 60 was the election. And it was late 59. So then which is where we are kind of today. You think about, well, you got this event happening potentially in Texas. And if something goes south there and it creates this fury and it ramps up a lot of people, and then you roll into this event that happens where in November of 1860, where Abraham was put in as president, which then further divided. Okay. And then right after that is when South Carolina said enough is enough for us, and they pulled out. And then the rest of the states started to fall in after them. So that's just giving you the history, and you're spot on, Adam. Like everything you're saying on this is, it's not like it's the same thing, but it's sort of like you got to look for the little things that lead up to
the markers.
The markers, absolutely. And it's not saying that this absolutely is, but it certainly has the makings to be one, especially since they're priming it and they're talking it up.
Well, we don't know what happened truly with the civil conflict, but after that, we know with World War I and World War II, there were events that many believe were done on purpose, or Fantastic Freddy's. Somebody goes in dressed as the wrong uniform and throws something into a radio station. By the way, I feel like that's a Mandela effect, that originally it was a school or something, but throws it in there and dresses as somebody else. And then everybody goes, oh, they did this. We've got to go to war. With World War I, we weren't even at war with the Europe again. And it was Germany with the big bad guys. Most were not in war. Italy had to jump in because it came over their borders. The U.S. was in their own war with Pancho Villa. At the time, what was it? Patton ended up creating the first car with a weapon on it. He ended up putting an automatic weapon onto a old Model T. I don't know what kind of car it was, but they were essentially fighting, Pancho Villa and his group of guys on horses. They ended up having the very first, cars outfitted with machine guns, and they ended up chasing them down, and the horses couldn't get away. They would mow them down. In that conflict, that ended up changing things. Patton ended up having something to do with World War I. All of a sudden, this event happens in Germany, and Germany sends a telegram. And this is where I thought this was shady. Now, because I started looking back at all of the wars and going, what was the thing that started this one? What started this one? And all of them have shady things around them because there's agendas around what was going on. The Germany telegram said to Mexico they were going to help support Mexico take back New Mexico, Texas, essentially take back their border. And U.S. saw that, and I think it was Wilson who was president, and he said, whoa, what are you guys... You guys are trying to help them take us back? No, we're going to go to war with Germany. Those guys are trying to screw us over. And it was a pride thing. But once they announced that, people were in the street like, screw Germany. Let's go to war with Germany. There was a thing that happened that got the public behind it. And after the public was behind it and people were begging for war, that's when we get involved. With Pearl Harbor, it's like once Pearl Harbor happened, everybody was down. With 9/11, once 9/11 happened, everybody was like, yeah, I'm signing up right now. I'm going to go over there and kick some ass. You had the Gulf of Tonkin. You have all sorts of other events that have happened. And it's like, that's why we expect that there's going to be something, big, big. I don't think it's going to be the three people. The three people could get this all started with Iran, but I think it will be something much bigger that starts off the world conflict. And that's what we're not looking forward to. Dex, go ahead.
It only takes one. And it doesn't even have to be somebody that's coming from across the border there, so to speak. It could be somebody from the federal side, like a DHS or CPB, or it could be somebody from the Texas side, like a guardsman, or even a independent that was maybe a truck driver. It only takes one. If it's two, you then have even ultra division. If it's one, you have major division on one side, and all of a sudden they have their a martyr, so to speak. And then the other side may be fearful of that. But if you have two or more than two on both sides, you then have martyrs on both sides, which will amp this up even greater. And that's what's scary to think about. And especially as you watch this unfold, I pray nothing happens. I pray trucks go in or don't go in or do what they do, and the whole event goes away and it continues to be a court case settled, and then they can move forward or not move forward, or whatever has to happen happens. I would like to see, personally, I'd like to see the border sealed up a little more than it is, because I don't like what's happening. But the fact that this is going on is pretty darn scary, and what's happening in Texas right now. And you guys need to pay attention, because this can escalate quickly.
At the same time as all of the rest of the world is getting ready for war. This is it. This is what we've been watching for years now. And we're not even talking about some of the natural disasters that could happen here. I mean, like, gosh, everything could set off. All of these different timelines are lining up. Speaking of timelines, you may be able to live through multiple of them. As far as Elon, that we announced yesterday, he announced telepathy, and we talked about this, the telepathy thing, being able to control your phone and everything else with your brain. Now, today, I believe, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but they said the first test patient or whatever, I did not look for an update on that, but they said that they were recovering and they've got them hidden away, and they haven't said much about it. I don't know if that's changed now, but he then says, save your brain like a game. Like, oh, got to autosave before I go defeat this boss. Heck. Before you go skydiving, you may want to back up your brain. What if the chute doesn't open? Well, in the future, you'll be able to do that, or at least that's what he's claiming. It says, save your brain like a game. We are here to this point where people are getting chips in their head that can allow them to control things. It says, save your brain like a game. Elon Musk's Neuralink plan promises to prevent AI extinction, wiping out humanity. What I've always thought is like, how? So what, we're going to become, AI integrated? Is that how we're going to fight it? Is that we're basically going to turn into cyborgs? I actually think a lot of the stuff that, besides the man himself, which it's hard not to agree with some of the things he said publicly. I don't know if he's doing those to get the following of people, but a lot of the stuff he's done as far as, Teslas and the battery technology and SpaceX and all these cool things, I think they're cool. Neuralink, I cannot say that for this. Neuralink, as far as this goes, maybe he sees something in the future that we don't. But personally, I think that this is terrifying. This is, you're talking about downloading a human brain onto an SD card, or who knows what kind of, maybe it will be those discs we talked about, those discs made out of crystals. But it said Elon Musk's Neuralink brain chip company has inserted its first device in a human, according to the billionaire CEO. Hopefully, it didn't have a slight anomaly, and that's why they haven't brought him out yet. Because a slight anomaly with SpaceX, the thing blew up into smithereens. As far as this guy, is he going to be able to? Are they about to show us a video of a man playing Pong with his brain? They've shown it with a monkey. They have a micro robot go in and tie it into all of these things. How did they figure this out? How many people did they have to test on? Did they have to test on, how did they even do this? How did they even, they must have done it. I understand that they probably did it with monkey brains. Imagine all the monkeys they had to cut open to do this. Not saying like, oh, save the monkeys or anything, but think about what they had to do this. And then to be the first human to say yes to this thing, what a ballsy guy. That is insanity. What if that's like, that's taking your own life kind of thoughts to do this kind of thing and to be the first one. You could probably save state in your brain. So if you were to die, your state could be returned in the form of another human body or a robot body. This is straight up science fiction, but think about this. I saw a movie recently that shows people stealing time, and it's a subtitled movie, but it was actually really good. It was a German movie, and it was called something time something. It's where they got time from young. So if you're 20, you could donate 5 years to somebody. If they're 50, they would then age over the next day after the surgery. They would go back to 45. You would go to 25 or whatever. And if somebody took 40 years, the main part of the movie was that if you got a loan on your house or something, one of the main characters did a collateral of 40 years of their life. Well, their house burnt down and they couldn't cover it. So then they go, well, you need to give 40 years of your life to this company that does it. The person's like 30 and now they're 70 all of a sudden. It's closer to the end of their life. Their whole life is gone now. I thought of this though. In that movie, they show that the dark side of it is that they have refugees and camps where they take young people and then do the surgery and forcefully take years off of their life. There's a very real application to that to this. Think about this. If somebody is 90 years old, or if somebody like Mr. Gates or somebody wants to keep living and, Mr. Soros or something like that wants to keep living, they can download their brain and then put it into a 20-year-old male. Heck, if they want to, they can put it in a female. Maybe that's why they're setting it up. Male can become female and vice versa. Think about that. This is, I can't even believe this is real. And nobody doubts this. People doubt that there's this or that, and they'll say, I think that's a conspiracy. No one is doubting this is happening. This is so unreal to me. I mean, Dex, can you believe this is happening right now?
No, I mean it's moved really fast. I thought this would take a little bit longer, but it's Elon we're talking about, and he tends to be, fast paced. I hope the first person doesn't have any severely adverse effects. I'm sure there will be something, but this whole notion of downloading your brain, saving it for future use. I mean, we just talked about the cryogenics. We just talked about those labs and explained, and that stuff isn't even. Yeah, that stuff's not even new technology. That's old technology. They've been freezing people away for, since the 70s in hopes that the day will come when this can happen. I mean, what if, they're able to pull a person back from a frozen state and transfer the brain information and revive it long enough for that and then download it to a droid. And that is the solution. I don't know. And I don't know that I like any of these solutions. And not my cup of tea and not something I would plan to do if it was available to me. But man, the times are exponentially expanding as it relates to technology and the evolution of our existence with it.
We just got cell phones a couple decades ago. Now we're going to have cell heads. Like, this is, if you take somebody, if somebody has terminal cancer, you download their brain, you put them into, and what's crazy is somebody who maybe they will change things to where if you do not want to live your life or something, if you have those kind of thoughts, that you could go, hey, I want an assisted this, and I want you to just turn me off, and I'm donating my stuff to science, and donate it. Or somebody gets paid, their whole family gets set up for life. Some rich person pays them millions of dollars so that they can basically inhabit their body. these kind of things would be science fiction a couple years ago. This is now something that's going to be on the roster in the next couple years. Like they're going to have moral debates about these kind of things. That's where I see this going. And look back in the future and go back to this time before we had brain chips. I mean, I for some reason in my head, I don't see us ever getting there. I almost think that something will intervene, that something will happen, and everything is going to end before it gets to this. Like I don't see a future in 30 years with this happening. I see something happening, a horrible event. Like I just can't see the world being like this. It's hard for me to envision. Dex, go ahead.
And here's the thing: what if this actually backfires in the way of normalizing everything? Part of the great things about humanity is that we're all different. We have greater strengths. Some have other weaknesses. Some people are better at one thing or another, and collectively we present very well together, even though we do a lot of evil things to one another. But I just think, like the example you had earlier of somebody who's depressed or doesn't want to go on, donating themselves to some rich person who does want to go on. Well, if they have the ability to download that brain and put it in someone else, they have the ability to upload information in that brain to fix that person. So when does it come the point where every brain becomes the same because they're all equal and they all have the same amount of knowledge, the same amount of things, that everyone's happy all the time? You'll be happy and own nothing, whatever it may be. But is that the day that we all become just droning lemmings and we're all the same? That's a scary thought.
Yeah, it is. I was looking up something, a comment by Danish Girl, read that HIV positive can now donate blood. We better check that out. Now, I did look up some of these, and from 2021, it says, you know what's funny? It actually says can no longer do it. When has that ever been allowed? Has that been allowed in the past, and now is it allowed again? I almost thought in my head, like, well, what if you're donating to somebody else that is also positive for it? What's crazy is if you have the first part and not AIDS, then, now there's medication. Apparently people can just live with it now. What's really messed up is my father died. He had HIV and then had AIDS, and he died when I was 11. And at the same time, the whole thing, nobody knew what it was. They made me drink at school. They found out that my father had it, and my father wasn't with my mom for like 7 years, and he got it way after they separated. But they knew that. They actually didn't know anything back when I was a kid about it. So parents found out, and they said, hey, that kid, their dad just died. He's in the newspaper. And they made me use a different water fountain. And that's how paranoid people were about that back then. And at the same time, Magic Johnson had his, and it's like, he's still around. And it was like, if Magic Johnson if you had money, you could survive something like that. If you didn't have money, you were dead. So that kind of personally hits with me that, people that had money could survive that. I could still have my dad right now. I thought it was just so absolutely crazy that I don't know what the numbers were, but it was so expensive. I thought I heard something like back in the day, it was like $1 million a month or some crazy number for the medication that Magic Johnson was on to keep him alive back then. And they had it. They had the ability back then, but they didn't have it. They didn't have it for if you were poor. If you were living in a trailer park, they didn't have it for you. So it's really messed up. But I just wonder, like, if somebody was positive and they donated to somebody that's positive, you would think that, that's not going to hurt. But I will have to check that out. Danish Girl, thank you for the comment. Thank you for the support as well. Grizz Bane says there are decades where a week's worth happens, and there are weeks where decades worth happens. We are at the precipice of a changing world. God bless. Grizz Bane, nice to see you, and thank you. And I agree. That's why I say, like, all this science fiction stuff that's happening, Who knows if it'll even get that far? Something may happen in between. And then Old Combat Vet says, and now you know who is running this crazy demonic world. Paul Barbacano, Old Combat Vet. They too busy talking about waffles. Give me control of nation's money and I care not who makes its laws. Mayor Amschel Bauer Rothschild. Old Combat Vet says, yeah, I care not who makes its laws. Oh, I get it. Old Combat Vet says, give me control of nation's money and I care not who makes its laws. Yeah, because you'll be above the laws, right? Mayor Amschel. And then the buys governments, politicians, individuals, judges, courts, militaries wholesale. Their lust for mayhem, money, and power is insatiable. Old Combat Vet, I agree with you. And I saw you earlier in chat that you said I won't be drafted. Been there, done that. Old Combat Vet, were you drafted? Are you Vietnam? That's thank you for your service, by the way, and appreciate you. And then Neil Nelson, thank you for your support as well. Grisbane says this convoy down to the border will be another Jan, and everybody said that too, that this may be a J6 something like that, right? Feds as patriots, and something bad will happen. It will be blamed on the right. You guys, if trying to get me knocked, let's see here. They all own central banks, IMF, Fed, BIS, World Bank, and 88% of the world's corporations. That's real power. I agree with you. Grisbane, you guys went back and forth. Geez. Going to the border is a bad idea. Too many red-blooded Americans in one place is a huge target. Freeze-dried food will be worth more than gold soon. Just be prepared for anything at this point. Paul Barbacano, I agree with that. And yeah, everybody's talking about waffles. So now that's kind of the world. If everything's happening, people will be talking about waffles or something else. As far as if this happens, there's something that already just happened today, and we were going to get to that later, but I might as well pop that in right now. I'm not going to show this, but this is breaking news as of right before the show. We've attached this to our website. You can see the message for this on here. Essentially, this man goes on a rant about, taking down the left side of things. And he shows a video of something in a bucket, and you can probably guess it's the top part of a person, and it's real. At least that's what they say. Many people are instantly going to say that this guy is some sort of hat, to say the least. But I'm not even going to show it because I bet you they're
already taking it down on Twitter. Even what you have now probably won't even show what isn't even there. So I can't get a tweet on the website to stay because they keep going.
Yep. So so we'll add the message in the article there, but we don't think you're even going to be able to see the video at this point. And he posted it to a main platform to YT. So this, once you see it, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. It looks very sus. So
allegedly it was up for 5 to 6 hours. That's how long it took them to finally take it down, from what I've read.
I'm surprised that this whole thing didn't get, we've had the whole platform go down right after like the NZ event, that when it went down and they kind of flushed all of that stuff out. And then previous events with that moon video, I wouldn't be surprised if this does, once it gets bigger, who knows? Like we should probably get moving along, because the whole thing could go down like that so they can clear things out. And then South Korea says North Korea fired cruise missiles in third launch of such weapons this month. No big surprise here. South Korea is, again, firing cruise missiles. It's only, expected at this point. South is essentially made the messaging that us in the North are never going to reunify, and they're preparing for war. Russia is saying that the U.S. and Japan and others are preparing for war with North Korea, which is crazy because all of these other wars that are about to happen, Obviously, if we go to war with North Korea, we're most likely going to other wars as well. So if we're preparing for one, we're probably preparing for all of them. So that was a third launch of cruise missiles. Just a reminder, if you want to save your own butt during a power outage, if your power does go out, our recommendation for a solar generator, and I do recommend solar because in a situation like an SHTF, gas stations are going to be either not running or impossible to even get gas out of. There will be lines miles long, and we know this from just regular events that have happened where people wait 6-10 hours to get gas, and by the time they get to the pump, it's empty. But as far as solar, you don't have to store gas. You don't have to store fuel. You just need yourself some solar panels. Go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Again, this is not only a modular, you can change the functions of it. Just like Lego, you can add bricks and expand it up to 96 batteries. The batteries then hold the power, whether you are charging off of the wall or if you are charging off of solar panels from outside. Again, they have great folding panels. I highly recommend theirs because they have handles. You can grab them, you can go, and you can have power anywhere. They are absolutely awesome. They're built like tanks, especially the new tactical. This is the new one that everybody is definitely wanting because it has built-in heaters into all the batteries. It's compatible if you already have a Flex 1500. The old batteries, they have adapters and things that are either out or coming. And then, of course, now the tactical is built with a steel reinforced frame. It's dust and water resistant. It has the 1,500 pound latch system. So this thing is the baddest of the bad. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only that, it can be protected by a brand name EMP shield that they make directly for it. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. There is a wait. You want to get your name on one of these soon. I believe in this one because it is quality. It's going to run when you want it to run. It is going to be reliable. That is the same reason that the U.S. Army has chosen Energy to do the STTR Phase 2 contract. So these are going to be shipping out with the U.S. Army. Again, they don't care about anything else. All they care about is if it runs. If it runs when we push the button, that's what we want. And they are going with Energy. Most of their competitors, and this is a personal statement for me, if you go with their competitors, if you can't wait for this, then I'd highly recommend getting a gas generator for the time being, and then try to sell it and try to get most of your money back from it. And when you get this, sell it. Because most of their competitors, if they are in the same field, they are owned by a company. Because I was looking for affiliates years ago when we started. There wasn't one that I could find that was comparable to this that was not owned by a company directly tied to the C, the C, and the P. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. And Dex, do you want to talk about Vegas? Right-wing media figures targets Taylor Swift and absurd theory ahead of the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm not going to pick a side on this one, but I'll just tell you what's happening. And apparently, she has just been all over the media. Now, she's obviously a very famous person and can typically always be in the media. But ever since she started dating the football player, he's with the Kansas Chiefs. And sorry, I'm not a big football fan, so I don't know all the details. But I know she's dating this guy, and there's been a lot of ramp up of that. Now the Super Bowl is coming, and they're going to that. And the expectations, or at least from the other side of the political spectrum, is the assumption that she's going to be partnering with the current president on that political side. And they've said that because at least the White House and the people working with JB have sort of said, yes, we'd like to get her on board and get an endorsement. She hasn't endorsed anything, but they feel like there's this big giant plan, and that's why this media has ramped her up so much, and even potentially why we saw all that AI stuff happen with her to get more publicity. Maybe not the best kind of publicity, but there is no such thing as bad publicity. And all of this culmination coming around to the Super Bowl event, I think just the last football game that had was like the largest number of views for an AFC champion or AFC playoff game ever. And it's, tied in with her to some extent. So there's this notion that they feel like, hey, this is all sort of a planned event. And what we're going to see is that she's going to come out and, take her large fan base and point it in the direction of the current president against the former president. So that's the skinny. Some of the big typical names you would see in the talking heads in the space are spouting this off, even from the likes of Posobiec and even Roseanne Barr of all people. And Ramaswamy was also tied up into this theory, along with many others. It's not just them. So anyway, that's the story. I find it very interesting. We'll have to see what plays out of it.
By the way,
especially as we go into the Super Bowl.
I've always thought, and I'm not going to say anything negative about Swiftie or Swift, whatever, because her fans are, they're insane. They go after people. She had AI photos come out about her. You couldn't even see what they were talking about because Swifties came out, put the same keywords, tens of thousands of tweets. So you wouldn't find them unless you were looking for hours. They were weird AI photos of her, in different things. When we covered that last week, it was insane. Thousands. When people say anything against her, they go after them. They tried to cancel Chappelle. I think they did as well. I know that there was the whole other thing with Chappelle. There's been a lot of things with Chappelle. But there was somebody recently that said something. There's been YouTubers, there's been huge people that they just like go after. She used to be like this like small town Christian girl. And to be honest, I've always thought she just looks like a regular person. Like she's never stuck out to me. I knew probably 5 or 6 women in my life that looked exactly like her. And she's got this, spunk. But have you not noticed like a transformation of what she's been doing? Like, look at that dress, a red serpents going all over her. Like, what is the deal with celebrities and they're all in red and like, just this whole demonic theme, like the, what's his face? Like, all of their faces, the guy that, went down the pole into the devil, lap dance thing. Sam Smith went from like just this normal guy singing beautiful songs to like freak nasty on the freaking stage with sprinkles on him. I mean, like, just what the heck is going on? Besides all of the other cultural issues that everybody debates on, why has there just been a complete just null in just general morals? Like music videos of people being R. Kelly? Like, what the hell is wrong with people? Just my opinion. This shouldn't be a right or left thing. This should just be like a why? Why do that? Why? What is the actual thought behind that? Are you teaching people that that's okay? Are you teaching people it's okay to be nasty and disgusting? And I guess so, I don't even know what to say. As far as this goes, that's just, the symbolism behind red serpents crawling up and all over you. Kind of weird. And then the one leg exposed. Somebody said that meant something, but really, I saw the serpent thinking, what the heck? And she used to be completely the opposite. At least publicly she was. And then, again, very, very, it's getting really, really crazy out there. Thank you, and thank you to Genius by Birth, and thank you, Danish Girl. Thank you, love you very much. Thank you, One Aunt B. Thank you, Void Man. Dex, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
We're going to do the shout over on Jams. Join us over there. We'll port you over here in just a second, so be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.